Well, welcome back to the shed, and I've got here an old crock from Philips. It's a Philips 604 stereo record player, portable job, where the speakers form the lid and they are the inside-out type. Now this equipment, it runs either on 6D cells or HP2s as they would have been to start with, or from the AC mains. And it's surprising how many of these sets, when you see them at boot sales or eBay or whatever, have the lids missing. I've got a few lids, but not very many. The most significant part that's missing on this, though, is the brushed alley plate there, brushed steel plate, which says Philips all transistor on it. I've got one of those too, so I think you know where that's going to end up. But this is a bit of a hybrid, this one. It's a strange beast indeed. Every one of these I've opened up thus far, and as you can imagine, I've opened up a good few of them, has had an all transistor amplifier. And this thing, it looks identical to the normal type. It just has volume, balance and tone controls. Same AC 187 and 188 power transistors for the amp. But this one is missing quite a few of the smaller transistors because they've gone and used, you may not be able to see it too clearly, an IC as a preamp there. So it's more like the rather fancifully styled 603 model in that respect, because those I'm fairly sure had an IC preamp. Almost identical to the 504 model. The only difference with that was that the 504 was mono, and the speaker still formed the lid, but it was one big speaker. I think it was still a 6-inch inside-out unit, but and oddly enough, there is a hole there for a mains on lamp as well, and you've even got the mounting post for it there. So this frame, if you like, must have been used perhaps for other designs. Now the main problem with this one was that this transistor here had shorted itself to the frame. They often do. The germanium transistor, it develops a condition, they call it tin whiskers actually. It's an electrolytic action that occurs within the can itself. And eventually tiny conductive tin whiskers are formed within, and it shorts out the junction that does the actual amplification, or of course it goes and shorts out the power to the can of the transistor, and then it ends up there's no sound. So having got sound on the left channel, tried tapping to no avail. Sometimes if you tap them gently with a screwdriver, having a certain which bank it is, you can get them to come back. They sometimes crackle and moan a bit, but they do come back. But this one wouldn't until I took it out of its clip here, and then all of a sudden we had sound on both sides. So then I could tap it a bit more, and as you see, it's back in its clip now, because it really ought to live there. That's the heat sink. They don't in practice get very warm at all, because you're only talking about 12 watts being drawn from the mains according to the spec plate inside it there. So it shouldn't really be a problem, but just as well to be careful, hey, with something so old. This has been quite well used, I should say, but the bearings are okay, the turntable runs nice and level, so yeah, we're on to something here, thank heavens. Same sort of control module is used as before for the electronic motor control. There's your little motor. It's almost identical in some of them to the motors found in the earlier cassette decks like this, especially the EL3302 and the like. But somebody has been in here before me as well, because there's a blob of solder there that really oughtn't to be there. And I wonder if the power amp perhaps went before and somebody's had it apart and put in a replacement. But if they did, it's not from a 603 because the 603 had sliders rather than rotary controls. Anyway, enough waffling. I'll put the camera down a moment and we can actually see what it sounds like. It sounds surprisingly good actually for what it is. Other things I've got to do with this is to sort out the automatic cutout because it doesn't come in. I suspect there's a display spring or something fairly simple. Unlike today's crappophones, even this little basic one, which was probably quite expensive in its day actually, has a variable tracking force on the arm. You don't get that on the crapophone ones, not even the imitation Philips crapophone one that you see nowadays based on the blue mono one that they made years ago, where the front sort of folds out and the speaker's left upright. That was an inside-out speaker, a 5x3 usually, and yeah, needless to say, the Chinese one, it's not a patch on it. Build quality just isn't there. Well, that sounds fairly promising. Not a bad sound, got quite a bit of oomph behind it. See how it does on something loud. There's a bit of rumble there, I know. A new idler might cure that. Believe it or not, that wasn't even full blast. Beat that made in China crapophone. I don't think you will. So it's just a matter of getting the automatic shut off to work again. So I'm sure that's probably going to be fairly simple. I do have another couple of decks like this to look at to reference where things should be at a particular time, and that's always a helping hand if you haven't got the service manual for these things. And then of course the all transistor plate to go on the front there. It's obviously had one. What happens is with these old things that the glue that they use to stick them on dries up, and then it starts to get loose. You can see that even this top plate is a bit loose, so carefully take it off and re-stick it, and it should be alright again for, well, who can say, another 30 years perhaps. 30 years, who am I kidding? This is probably more like 40 years old. Anyway, hope you like this peculiar thing. It's got the usual old-fashioned plug-in head shell, which was rather nice because if you wanted to, you could fit a flip-over stylus, so you could play LPs, 45s or 78s, just flip the stylus over for 78 and away you went. No trouble at all. Can't do that with the China-made crapperphone one, alas. No, and don't try playing 78s with the needle they supply, because if you do, next time you play your precious LPs, you might find that it doesn't sound quite right, shall I say. Anyway, on that cynical note, see you soon.